Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Thursday and welcome to the Pagan Housewife. Let's talk about balancing energies, because now that the equinox has passed and the current Mercury retrograde is drawing to a close, I've been meditating more and more about where there needs to be greater balance in my life and in my household and spiritually, all of these things. And I have found myself bouncing between this feeling of needing to slow down and just enjoy and appreciate things, and also the need to hurry up, get everything done, move, move, move. And this tells me that different aspects of my life are requiring different speeds now. We know that life is not a stagnant affair, and sometimes this feeling of never moving at quite the right speed at the right moment, either we're rushing through to try to tick all the boxes or we're dragging to get through something. It's always a sign that what we're needing to do and how we're needing to do it is somehow misaligned with our standard mode of operation. And I think that's what I'm feeling right now. And I don't know if anyone else outside of this video is experiencing the same thing at this very moment. If you are, let me know in the comments. But as this is something that seems to happen from time to time, I think it's worth talking about at least. Because what do any of us work hard for but to have that sense of achievement and then to have the time to actually enjoy the fruits of our labor? If we're constantly rushing and we never get to enjoy anything, that's a problem. If we're sluggish and we can't get anything done, that's also a problem. And if we aren't enjoying the things that we used to and we feel like our lives are just too much and yet not enough all at the same time, that's a problem. And that's why we're talking about rebalancing ourselves. And just in case anyone is concerned that I'm about to make a series of suggestions that are more aspirational than practical, let me set your mind at rest, or let me try to, because obviously there are non-negotiable givens in our lives that we're just going to have to deal with. They are what they are. They're not going to go away just because we happen to need a change of pace. We have to make our adjustments around those things. Otherwise, we're just going to condemn ourselves to a greater degree of frustration, and nobody wants that. So it's worth examining what our bare bones obligations really are. I'm talking about the things we just cannot get away with not doing, those things that are necessary for our survival and our basic health. This means we all need to earn a living. Money is required to pay bills, so we need to go out to do work and earn that money. It also means that we need a reasonable degree of cleanliness in our homes, food on the table, clothes to wear, and of course we need to be clean and cleansed in of ourselves, both body and spirit. And of course, speaking of the spiritual level, attending to the kind of energy that is within our homes, I think that also falls under the category of need, particularly for those who practice the craft. I mean, if the energy is bad in our house, that's going to have an incredibly detrimental effect on us, possibly even detrimental physical effects, because the energy eventually creates a physical manifestation. And, that's just saying nothing about how that's going to affect everybody else. So if you have a family, you can't afford to just let that slide because it's going to cause problems. So taking a serious look at our households and our personal needs, what they really are, what does it take for us to survive? And separate all of that from the list of things that have been extras that have been added onto it. That is something that definitely needs to happen. And this may be quite difficult for us, especially if we're prone to feeling guilty because, people want you to do this and they want you to do that. And then if you tell them no, suddenly you're a bad person. And why can't you just take one for the team? So it's easier said than done to recognize that kind of manipulation and to reject the force of that manipulation, especially because sometimes the people who are imposing upon us, they don't actually have malicious intent in their heart. They're just accustomed to us saying yes. So when we suddenly assert ourselves and say no, it's shock as much as anything else. But once we form the habit of knowing where our limits are and where they need to be, we can create boundaries and we can maintain those boundaries. So once you have separated what you have to do versus everything else, then it's time to really examine what are we filling our time up with. Are those things building us up or are they cutting us down? Are we devoting energies to interests that may have run their course that don't really speak to us anymore? Are we just doing things out of sheer habit and nothing more? And I bring this up because there's only 24 hours in a day. So the time that we are able to claim as our own, we should hold as sacred, as a chance to refresh the spirit. If it becomes a drudgery or if it gets commandeered by people who either don't respect our boundaries or don't respect us as individuals, then we are denying ourselves needed time to recharge our batteries. And of course, that has a bad effect on us, that has a bad effect on the family, on the running of the household, and it goes on and on and on, like this endless ripple effect. And it also can set up an incredibly unhealthy mindset. It can lead us to feeling guilty when we do claim any time as our own, because we've essentially taught ourselves to edit ourselves out of our own lives. It comes down to this, how dare we exist and have needs of our own? So learning to set boundaries really is of paramount importance. And on a related issue, I think it's fair to observe that our society is incredibly overstimulated. And you can't convince me that this does not partially explain why we see this rise of general feelings of anxiety, as well as people having this sense of life rushing by too quickly and yet somehow feeling uninvolved, almost as if they were an observer of life rather than a participant. There's just too many distractions. And an increasing number of people are just so busy that they can't even hear themselves think. And that's assuming they are still thinking at all and they're not just reacting to stimuli, which, explains some of people's rather extraordinary behavior these days. But suffice it to say, this isn't natural. This is not something that the human species has been able to adapt to, at least not with any degree of success. And the cost of maintaining this go, 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 busy, 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 distract, distract, distract is just too high. It reminds me of something of what my good friend and a friend of this channel, Georgia Liberty of Wiccan Conservative, what she always says. We've had our humanity beaten out of us. Endless distractions are essentially that switch that we keep getting whacked by. We need repose. And even more, we need enough quiet to be able to genuinely focus on what matters most in life. We need to be able to remind ourselves of what do we do our work for, whether it's our secular work or housework or spiritual work. Without our whys, our energy well dries up, and we can feel as though we're accomplishing absolutely nothing while still running at 90 miles an hour without let up. And it was Mahatma Gandhi who said that there was more to life than just increasing its pace. And his statement is not an indictment of or rejection of hard work or for attending to the necessary business of life. It's a recognition of the need to make a distinction between what sustains life and what enriches life, and making sure that the two are balanced. And I'm reflecting on this a lot because I know my temperament. I can get hyper focused on something and nothing else will exist outside of it. And this means a lot of other things can get neglected entirely or be badly done. Obviously, this is not an ideal situation. So the ongoing process of learning to rein in that tendency, knowing when to indulge it and when to step back, it's all part of the balancing process. Another thing I'm feeling my way through is making sure that I run my channel and that my channel does not run me. Content creation can take over a person's life. There's a reason why you will hear YouTube people or anyone on social media who will periodically reference this of like, holy cow, what happened to my life? I was so busy doing all this other stuff. Where's the rest of my existence? And in addition to creating videos, I do have a gilded community and I make sure that there's a myriad of daily posts and I try to make sure to interact with everyone. But when it comes to the prepared content with the video and the posts, let's just be real. If I did not spend a great deal of time behind the scenes and put forth the effort to getting it done ahead of time, it wouldn't happen. If I left it to the day, never going to happen. And of course, as I said, I do try to be as available as what I can be to the group, especially if we have a lot of newcomers or if there's a good conversation going on, because that's all part of community building. And that is part of my work that I genuinely feel called to do. So I'm working on figuring out what works, what doesn't, what's balanced, what's too little, what's too too much, and that will continue to evolve. The other aspect of rebalancing is finding a steady pace with which to pursue my studies, and most importantly, to apply the lessons learned and to practice more. I mean, this video series, The Pagan Housewife, it's all about bringing a pagan approach to life and to homemaking, which is all about the practicalities. It is incredibly grounding. And at the moment, I feel like that's something I could definitely use, and maybe you find yourself in the same boat. At any rate, let me know what you think in the comment section below, or better yet, go to the description box, click on the link to the Gilded server. It's called Blackbird's Brew. We'd be very happy to welcome you amongst us. And even if you're just needing to have a place where you can come together with people on a more social level, kind of get away from the noise of the rest of the life. We do have a lot of channels that lead to more generalized conversations, so you can introduce yourself there, see what it's all about, and be able to just kind of leave behind some of the insanity of the world and help hopefully regain your own personal balance. Anyway, hope to see you there soon, and that brings this video to the close, and I'll see you next time. Bye.